I'm going to hope and pray that this is working because it'll tell me here in a minute. At least that's the key to this. I
I'm
believe
not
we're working. I believe we're working now. So we
okay.
will roll. Hey, we took a week off, but we are back in business, both literally and figuratively. And I think some of our topics today are going to be around some of the things that you don't think about when you start a business. So some of the either mistakes or secrets that we've learned along the way. And I know that Jessica has some cool news that she's going to share with us as well, as far as going all in. Do you want to start, or do we want to?
Yeah, I'll jump
Cool.
right in.
Let's do
So,
it.
yeah, so I had made a Facebook post over the weekend, or I guess that was just this week, but my timeline is all thrown off. But I before I started insurance, I was a probation officer and I worked there for almost 8 years, completely separate from what we're doing now. But when I left that job, they essentially created a new position for me, and it was work from home, basically just data entry of all the things that I already knew how to do in my position there. And this allowed us financially to start our insurance company, while also knowing, okay, we still have this for sure paycheck that's coming in that we can, rely on while we're starting this business. And that was a scary leap to take in general. We didn't know how long it was going to take, that I was going to need to, work that job and everything. But we just officially made the decision just a couple of weeks ago that I was going to put in my last 2 weeks there. So as of Saturday, yes, I have quit that job, and now I am 1,000% insurance only. And it feels really good. It was very bittersweet to leave that job, just having worked with those people for so long. And that was my passion originally. That's what I'd gotten into. And so it was a little crazy. I, just literally came back from turning in all my stuff there. So
That's amazing. So
yeah.
what was the turning point for you to make that decision of, okay, I'm going to go all in? Like, what was that, like the last thing that you felt when you're like, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, honestly, it was stress in December. I was so stressed out between, obviously, holidays are just it's more stressful. I wanted everything to be perfect for Christmas, and you just have so many more events going on, and just all the things that the holidays bring. And then the insurance business was really ramping up. We also have a mortgage branch, so that was just starting, and I don't necessarily deal so much with that, but it was bringing in new business, which was obviously keeping me busy, which is a great thing.
Yes.
But we were so busy that I was so overwhelmed. I was basically during the day, besides all the things of just life, taking my kid to school, groceries, just all of those daily things, and then working the insurance. I was spending my evenings basically just working this other job. And it was too much. I was like, something has to give. And so finally, my husband was kind of like, okay, we have to do something different. And he kind of threw it out there of like, maybe this is the time. Like, you're going to have to work your ass off in the insurance stuff to make up for it. But like, if I want more time and everything to be able to take care of myself and be there and just not in this total chaotic mess that it was, that was the step that we decided we were going to take. And so it's like, let's do it. I'm all in. Like, let's go. So here we
That makes
are.
me so happy. That's it's cool to hear when people make that leap, because I remember having to make that same decision, and it was like the thing I told myself was like, I'm going all in, I'm betting on myself, and I refuse to fail. It
Mm.
was who was I talking to? It was a peer, probably in the, real estate industry, that asked me one day, "Do you love to win or do you hate to lose?" And like, I thought it was a trick question. And the first thing that just came out of my mouth was, I hate to lose. And it was such a like driving force that I knew if I had my back against the wall that I would do whatever it takes.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I remember when I opened up my first independent agency was okay, I need to run lean. And I downsized everything, like bought a cheap Honda Civic, and I don't knock on those because I still have that car. Like there's
They
and
last forever.
they really do. And I'm actually going to give it to my kid who starts driving here pretty soon.
Oh.
Insurance rates. All right, we'll shelf that for a minute. But I
That's a whole other discussion.
right? But I knew that I was going to have to make sacrifices in order for the long-term goal.
Mm.
And I think that's one of the things that really hit me getting into the insurance business was there's to remember to celebrate your immediate wins because a lot of them do feel like they're a lot farther out there.
Mm.
You know, and one of the things that Jessica and I were talking before we hopped on to the podcast was just kind of what topics we think would bring value to you all. Once again, anyone listening and tuning in, if there's something that you'd like to hear, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to pick apart topics that you think would be beneficial to you. One of the things that I love listening to is hearing other business owners share their hurdles, share their mistakes, share the things like, hey, don't do this because I learned the hard way. And I think one of the things that I learned was actually when I was a captive agent. So, for those of you that don't know, I was a captive agent with American Family for years before I went independent. And when I opened up my first agency, they don't teach you how to run a business. Not American Family specifically, but just in general, right? You can go to school for business, you can study all you want. You don't really know until you start doing it or have a mentor to help guide you through that. And I remember after my first year, so excited. I made money. I felt super accomplished. Well, guess what? Miss Kimmy over here didn't understand how to put away for your quarterly taxes.
Oh no.
And I remember kicking myself because again, I had a business degree and like I thought I knew what I was doing. And you get hit with your first tax bill, and it is eye opening. And I will say for anyone that's just starting out, regardless of what business you're in, insurance, outside of the industry, get a great CPA that
Mm.
also helps you with bookkeeping. Is it makes your life so much easier to know what you're up against, whether you're doing it quarterly or annually. Just being able to put away aside some money for taxes, but also so there's no surprise at the end of the year when that time does come, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just started doing ours quarterly because it kind of bit us in the ass last year.
Mhm.
And we have a CPA, but I don't know if that conversation just never came up or what. But he was like, yeah, you guys should be doing this quarterly. And we were like, okay, cool. Like, good to know now, like a year and a half in. But yeah, like, it sounds like you at least had somewhat of a business background. We did not like have anything and or an insurance background at all. And so other than just knowing what my husband knew from real estate, we just kind of dove into this with like no knowledge. And
Mhm.
so it's scary, and it's good to have good mentors and everything for that to help you move forward, but it's a lot.
Yeah, and it's really cool to see. Shout out to there are training companies and coaches that are out there that teach insurance specific operations and sales training, and I'm seeing more and more of it. And I'm so glad. I wish that was there when I started because I will say one of the benefits to starting with a captive company, regardless of whether you're an agent or producer, you learn a lot of those companies do have good training programs as far as product knowledge and consultative sales. So I'll say I was able to gain experience from that. What what is different with starting an independent is now you've got multiple carriers to stay on top of, whose underwriting rules have changed, with the fires and with the crazy weather happening,
Yeah.
often there's moratoriums and, we didn't know a lot about that back in the captive world. And of course, just all the technology and all the systems that we use that some talk to each other, some don't, as we know.
Mhm.
And there's just such a large learning curve, even just in the software piece. I think what has been really cool is groups like this that we're a part of, allow us to have a space to ask questions and learn from each other. And one of the things that I if I was to give advice to new agents getting into the independent space, is to build relationships with your reps. I like to equate it to, if anybody is familiar with pharmaceutical sales reps, it's their job to inform the doctors of how the drug works and also what other drugs it may interfere with. Because the doctors, while a lot of them are up to date on that information, they rely on their reps to help them with those highlights.
Mhm.
And same thing with us as independent agents, relying on the reps to help us understand, hey, what's new in with your company, and also being able to call on them when you do have questions, is absolutely huge.
Yeah, I think that the learning curve of not just insurance, but that we like, I thought that the carriers would reach out to us always when there were changes or things needed or like any updates or whatever. And it's not always the case. You almost have to, like you said, either have your relationships like that or you have to do your own work. Going in and realizing if there's been, non-renewals or cancellations and stuff like that. Like I did not realize that was on us
Mhm.
to be checking on those things. And so it's just major learning curves, I think, all around when you go, from especially like you said, captive to independent, but just insurance world in general is so much stuff to learn. It is. It's
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the things that really changed for me working at home was I realized how often when I had an office that vendors and reps would come in.
mm,
And then being on the carrier side gave me a whole new appreciation to what those reps do. Is some agents are more than willing to meet, as long as the rep is there to provide value and updates and, continue to build that relationship. I also found that sometimes agents were too busy to have that conversation. And I remember kicking myself learning that as a rep, going, "Oh my gosh, I was probably that agent at one point thinking, "Oh, we're so busy. I'm in the daily grind. I don't have time to meet." Now, knowing what I know from the carrier side, agents, make the time to meet with your reps. Make the time to build relationships with your different vendors on the carrier side, on the software side, tech, you name it. One, they're going to help you understand the product because that's what they live and breathe. That's their job. They see that
mhm.
every day while we are navigating all the different windows and things happening in our world. Those reps are there to be the expert in their product and assist you through that. And I've also found too that it's up to the agent to ask good questions because the rep might not know what you don't know. And so if there's things that you want to know about the product, hey, what are some highlights? What are some tips and tricks, best practices? Sometimes the reps know, hidden discounts or hidden buttons that you can click that all of a sudden get you this great rate. Well,
Mhm.
for the most part, right? And especially with the different technology vendors too. If anything, it's amazing networking. I've found making great relationships with any of these reps and vendors, one will help you when it comes to recruiting. They're inside agencies, they know all the people, so they're going to know when somebody is looking for a shift or can get you in contact with somebody that maybe if you would have just called their number on their website, you wouldn't have gotten a hold of them as quickly. So,
Right.
leveraging your relationships is super important in what we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Who do you have a particular rep or vendor that really helped shape your guys' agency?
I don't honestly like, I don't feel like we have dug into that. Like, we need to be better about knowing our reps for everything. Like, I know I've had to reach out to our progressive rep because we've had issues, and she was great, helpful with all of that. We have the oh my gosh, the rep for like Amwins has been amazing because anytime we have a question, I just shoot an email to him, and he is super quick to just respond, even if it's, hey, can you guys take this, like, is this something you guys will write? And he'll
Mhm.
say, yes or no, or get me to the right person. So in those situations that we do have those relationships, it's been so helpful. But that is something that I think we as a company need to be better about, is knowing who all our reps are, who the people are to reach out to. Kansas Mutual is another one, like a local carrier that we're really close with, even like their underwriters. Like, they are easy to get a hold of. They're quick with their questions. Like, I know that I can ask a question and not feel like an idiot. And I feel like sometimes that's the problem, is like, I'm almost 2 years into this. I feel like I should know this answer, but like, can you just, answer it for me anyways? Cause I'm not afraid to ask questions. Probably almost to a fault, but I think that's how you learn, and just have to be, not afraid to be asking those questions to them.
100%. And I think it goes back to the actually building a relationship with your reps. Is I would bet good money that anyone listening to this has had the instance where you did have a question and you couldn't get a hold of your rep,
Mm.
or you did need something, you needed a resource of some sort and it took them forever to get back to you. Uh,
Mhm.
it's it's interesting that this same topic, it applies to agents. Whoever has the best follow-up game wins.
Mhm.
And it comes down to answering your phone or having resources to help you field those calls. It's whoever responds quicker. It's it's all about communication, and I use the word follow-up because this has been a huge topic. I was actually just meeting with my coach this week about topics to talk about in keynotes and podcasts, and so this is a great thing to segue into. And he literally started asking me questions about my agency and how I got to the sale part of it. So he asked me really detailed questions about, okay, how did you start it? How did you feel? What was the last thing that you thought of before you made the jump? Kind of similar to what I asked you. And walked me all the way through like operations and processes. And one of the glaring themes was sense of urgency, setting expectations, and follow up. I think the expectation piece is huge, both on agent and heck, even carrier reps. If you're listening to this, is we all get busy. We're all busy, right?
Mhm.
We know this. Being able to set an expectation on when you're going to call back and then doing what you say you're going to do, it works wonders. It develops trust, it develops, reliability, and it's okay to set a time boundary. So let's say you are drowning in work and you want to make sure that that person still feels important. Hey, I've got, a bunch on my plate. You're super important to me. It may take me a couple of days to get back to you. Is that okay? And one, it's asking for their permission for patience. And two, it gives them that expectation that they're not the only person they're working on, So I think
Well, and I think that it kind of goes with that honesty piece that we talked about before too. Like, just saying like, hey, they need to be understanding that they're not the only person. And so if you are overwhelmed, it's like, hey, I'm going to get to this. Like, is it okay if it's later this week? Or,
Mhm.
the other morning I had a guy, one of my commercial auto guys, calling in for a COI. And we
Mhm.
were getting ready to do some training with our new assistant. And I said, hey, would you mind, like, do you need this right now? And if you do, no problem. Like, I can do it. But I said, do you mind if I wait till tomorrow? Because I'm actually going to be doing some training with an assistant and would love to do this COI with him. And he was like, oh yeah, great. No problem. Like,
Awesome.
and it was helpful of like him understanding what I'm going through, but me also making sure, like, what does your timeline look like as well? Something about being like reachable. When we bought our the book of business that we had bought when we very first started, a lot of people had said, well, we tried calling her and we couldn't get a hold of her, we never could reach her, like all these things. And I didn't want to be that agent, that was unreachable. And so
Yeah.
even if a client is texting me or emailing me and it's after hours or whatever, even if I'm not available, I do try to at least respond to them at the time to say, hey, like, can I take care of this, tomorrow? Or, just asking like, is this convenient? Like, it's not convenient for me right now. Is this okay to do it, the next day so that they understand, but also know that I am here for you. Just I can't do this right now. I think that's important for them to know and for us to, just be honest with them about.
I think that's amazing. It sets, I'm going to use the word boundaries. I know some people have baggage around that word. I'm saying that because I used to be one of those people. I thought boundaries was this scary word that people overused. Come to find out, it helps you set better expectations
Mm.
and allows you to do what you say you're going to do. And what you did was it allowed you to over deliver, instead of doing the opposite. So super cool that to hear that people do that. And it it's I think I'm getting stuck on this because I didn't used to do this. It was a challenge for me. I was a yes girl. Someone needs something, I was going to drop everything and get it done. And it started setting expectations with people so that when I did eventually start getting busier and I started to scale and add staff and start delegating, that didn't feel good for people. And they knew that they could just call me and get it done. So then they would start, going around staff or going around what processes we did end up setting in place, and it, coming back to me and my plate, and me not setting, expectations around that. So I think what you just saw was me having flashbacks to, oh my gosh, I used to be that person that would, respond to the 10, 11 PM text messages because it was important to me to get back to people that quickly. Now, what's been really cool is now, so I'm one of those people that if I have a lot of stuff to get done, I won't log off until it's done to a degree. Now, if I know I've got the energy in me, and like, for example, last night I was up till probably midnight catching up on emails and working on some creative stuff. And I sent out some emails and I prefaced them and I prefaced my team, hey, sometimes I do work and end up working late into the night. That's not my expectation of you, and definitely not expected of you to reply to that. And I know that there's ways to, schedule things sent out, but for me, I was go, go, go and got it sent out. But this morning I woke up and went, I probably could have scheduled that to go out this morning, because it can send a message that, maybe I had too much on my plate, so I was working late into the evening, or that it could potentially be my expectation if I don't voice that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, you emailed me last night. I mean, I think it would have
I
been
did.
12:30 like your time, but it was 1:30 my time, which
Oh gosh.
I was up. And I actually like read through it, and I didn't respond to you last night because then I was like kind of the same thing of like, this isn't the expectation that I'm awake at 1:30 and reading your email, but I just happened to like see it come through. But I think it is important to like, you can work like that if you want to, but not have that expectation. And also, like, it kind of goes into your time management too. I really struggled when we started that kind of that same thing. If somebody called or emailed or whatever and needed something, I was like, I have to do this right now. And it would stress me out because I would be like, I was doing this and now I have to get this done for this client. And it was like, then I was pulled all these different ways to the point where I'd be like, okay, now what was I working on before that call came in? And it was really hard to figure out. I'm still kind of working on finding that balance of like, okay, they need this, but do they really need it? Like, is it an emergency? Can it wait, even 30 minutes until I'm done of doing what I'm right in the middle of? Because then I would start bouncing around, and that's where I start to get overwhelmed and anxious and everything. And so trying to almost like put a priority on what they're needing. So especially like my guys that are calling in for certificates, like some of them truly are like, hey, I need this to get on the road right now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
cool, great. I can get that for you. But if it's something that can wait a day or even just, a couple hours, hey, I've got this going on. Is it okay if I get this to you by end of day? And most times people are like, yes, that's fine. And so I'm definitely in that learning curve of like, figuring it all out and prioritizing what's the word I'm looking for? Like the need for it, I guess.
100%. Yeah. And there's different ways to do that. There's, the Eisenhower matrix on, is it urgent? Is it something you can delegate? Is it something you can
Mhm.
basically throw away? At my old agency, we used to rate it A, B, and C, A being this is extreme priority fire drill, as we called it.
Yes.
And, you could schedule it accordingly. So that's something that we can use in our personal lives. And as we're talking about it out loud, the reason I shared that with people is I'm sure there's other people that are struggling with that. So this is me saying, yes, that was me last night at 12 in the morning going, oh, I need to get some emails out. And I was on a roll and I got so much done. It was the most productive time I've had in a minute. And I'm sure it'll happen again. So
Yes.
yeah.
Sometimes that's necessary too. When you're on a roll and in a productive like mode like
Mhm.
that, you're like, all right, I'm in it right now. Let's get it done. And then because tomorrow you could get nothing done. And then you at least feel like you've
Right.
done something for the week. So
Exactly. Yeah. So for me, I love the late nights. I feel super creative, and for me, early morning is when I am much more detail oriented, where I can go through admin things and kind of plan out the day or what the next day is going to look like. What's
yeah.
worked well for me is leveraging your CRM or your management system, whatever you use. No wrong answers, as long as you use the same thing to set yourself reminders and tasks.
Hmm.
That way you're not having to look in different places for it. Even if it's an old-fashioned checklist or spreadsheet or something, as long as you're using the same consistent method to go back and double check, "Oh, I need to go through these." Like, I literally had to add to my daily tasks to check my voicemails and text messages. I don't
Yep.
know about you guys, but my voicemail box, it's awful,
Oh,
awful,
definitely.
awful. So I started having to put this reminder to start going in and looking in there. Eventually it becomes habit, right? As we all know, habit stacking and how to get better at things. But I needed that reminder so that I could show up as the good communicator that I claim to be,
Hmm.
so that I could respond back. Hence follow-up game we were just talking about. Whoever has the best follow-up wins.
Yes. Yeah, I have to set reminders for literally everything in my life now. Like, I feel like I don't know if this was a becoming a mom thing or just getting older, but before I used to have this whole agenda in my head and I remembered everything. I remember times, dates, like I have to do this at this time, and I didn't need reminders. And the last few years, that's all gone out the window. And I mean, I constantly have reminders on my phone going off, even for just the slightest little things. But if I don't do it, there's just too much going on that I won't remember.
Mhm.
And I am a paper and pen girl. So like I do have a physical, to-do list that sits on my desk in the office. And that's how I get through my to-do list of things for clients, or a phone call came in or whatever it is. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'd be lost without all of that.
I love writing stuff down. There's just something about the act of writing something that helps me remember it.
Yes.
And if like, even to take a step further, if you read it out loud to yourself, now you're speaking it and you're hearing it. So now you're getting it
Mhm.
in all different ways, into your brain.
Yes, you're gonna remember somehow, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this is cool. Thank you for letting me. I felt like I was having my own talk therapy through the late night evening stuff. That's what's so fun about podcasts and, like, coming on to here. I know that you and I were talking about, going forward about inviting guests. I think
Mhm.
I'd love to take a minute to anyone listening to this. We absolutely would love that. We would love to have guests on here. Come talk about things that are working for you and share your wisdom. That's
Yeah.
why we're part of this group and why we do what we do, is to help people, as an insurance agent, help protect. So, how can we do that better for each other in our circle?
Yeah, it's always great to have, other perspectives, because you can always they could say something so simple that they've been doing or using for so long, and, like, you just were like, "Oh, I never thought of it that way," and, can be so helpful.
Yeah. I just thought of another funny thing. I also recently added to my to-do list to drink more water.
Mm. Yes.
It's true. And every now and again, I'll scroll on social media and I'll see the thing that says, "Hey, here's a reminder to drink your water." And I'm like, I needed that. The algorithm knows me.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. All the things, trying to keep up with yourself and just taking care of yourself and your kids and everybody else, your clients.
Mhm.
It's rough.
100%. I think that's a great reminder to anyone listening to take care of yourself. That cliche saying about you can't pour from an empty cup is,
Yeah.
take a minute to recharge, even if it's literally just a 5-minute meditation or drinking your water or
Mhm.
going for a quick walk outside just for a pattern interrupt. It can make such a huge difference in how you show up at work, as a parent, as a spouse,
Yeah.
whatever role you're playing. Just take care of yourself. If I can leave anyone with a message today, take care of the body. It's your
Drink your
temple.
water.
Yes.
One of my goals this year actually was to read more as part of something to do
Yeah.
for me. And I'm on like I will finish it by tomorrow. I will have finished 4 books in January. And so I'm like, dang, like I'm way ahead of my game. My goal, I set my bar kind of low. I said, okay, 12 books, that's one a month. And I'm already, a quarter of the way into that. So
That is fabulous. What kind of books are you reading? Is there a theme or they just kind of
so
random things?
kind of right now that I'm doing like suspense thriller books, which typically hasn't been my like genre. I went through a phase where I was doing a lot of like kind of more romance, like summer book
Mhm.
reads.
Yeah, yeah.
But I got gifted a like suspense thriller right after like for Christmas, and it was like a blind date book club that we did for the first couple weeks of January, and that really got me stuck on this genre. So I'm kind of loving it.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I will admit I don't think I've ever read any thrillers. Like now I'm singing the Michael Jackson song in my head. Thriller.
Yes.
Yeah, I love reading autobiographies or
Oh,
even biographies, I guess, just about people and their stories and their lives and the crazy crap that they've done.
yes.
And of course, self-improvement books are always a big one for me.
Yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like I go through waves where I'll do kind of, several of the same genre and then I'll move into something else. So,
Mhm. Yeah, I think the last fiction book, like there was a series that I read when I was probably like junior high or high school. And I'm gonna go look it up and see if they still make it because I didn't get to finish it. But I read the majority of this series. It was called Fearless. It was about a girl who was supposedly born without the fear gene. So she was raised to be this badass that did like martial arts and spoke different languages. And I'm sure they've made movies that have this similar theme now. But
mhm.
it was so cool to read about a girl without fear. And the word fearless has come up a lot in my life. When they say, "Oh, pick a word for the year," to focus on. And I've used the word fearless quite a bit.
Hmm.
And this year it's leaning more towards authenticity. It's been a really big buzzword for me
I love
in
that.
a lot of things. So which to be authentic comes with being fearless often.
Mhm.
So
Go hand in
well,
hand.
had 100%. Yay! Well, wonderful. Again, if there's a topic that you want to hear about, we would love to dive into that either with you or for you. Please, drop something in the comments of things that you'd like to hear, either insurance related or not. And that's the cool part
Mhm.
about the podcast that we're doing here is it seems jumbled because that's how most of us live our life. We don't do just one thing, so
Yes.
it's super cool. Well, friends, if you didn't catch our last post, we are doing this every other week. So we will catch you in a couple of weeks and we look forward to the next one.
Yes. We're excited.
Awesome.
Bring
Cool.
on some guests.
Yes, let's do it. Cool. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye.